So here we go. We've got radishes and carrots here. The carrots are coming up. Over here we have squash, zucchini, cucumbers, cabbage, some butternut squash, cauliflower, turnips, some more carrots down this row, and these are more broccoli here. Over here we have broccoli on this row popping. This is all cabbage here coming up. This is all cauliflower. Not much of anything popped up here. There's a couple here and there, but really not much came up for whatever reason. Cauliflower never does well. This is all butternut squash on that end, and some more cucumbers down here. This is all romaine lettuce. That is bok choy and beets. And they're kind of all spaced. I did plant more in here that should be popping up soon. And I also did more romaine that should be popping up soon. I'm seeing little buds all throughout, so I'm hoping we'll get more come up in the next week. The chickens are really quiet today. Normally they're all kinds of worked up, making lots of noise. Hey guys, today I thought it would be fun to take you along with me while I go and water the garden and tend to all that. I also have to add a few things to the compost bin, so we'll walk through all of that too. And right now I'm just gonna go and water everything out in the garden. So here I am hand watering everything. One thing I really want to do in spring is install an irrigation system, like a drip line, to all of the rows and the bed. Another thing we're going to be changing up is the garden layout for spring is going to be very different. It's very, very flat here in Texas, so you really have to mound up your rows so that there is drain off. Otherwise, everything is just going to flood when we do get rain. And in the springtime, we do get quite a bit of rain, or we could. So that it's imperative that you do have some mounding. Even if we do bed up some areas, those have to be well up off the ground, just so that there is drain off. So adding the irrigation lines or the drip lines is going to be really great, because instead of having to go out every day and just hand water every little area, the irrigation will just free up time and will ensure that there is consistent watering on all of the rows and the beds, so that everything can just grow to its maximum potential. We're in zone 9B, so it gets really hot, and it's like an oven because of the humidity. So making sure that things don't scorch or dry up is really important, especially in August. It's the hottest month of the year here, sometimes even September. And this past year, this 2022, was scorching starting in early June, which is really not typical for us. It's really starts getting scorching around July all the way through September. So this year it just came early and never stopped. And it's also been very, very dry this year. We've had several bouts of drought. So having those drip lines is really going to be key for spring and summer next year. And with the new bed layout, I think it's going to make a really big difference there too. So right now I'm watering broccoli right here, and directly next to it is carrots. I'm kind of trying to do both of them at the same time so I can kind of get that out of the way. I'm also pulling some weeds. So one of the things that we're going to do differently in spring is for weed control. Right now we're doing landscape fabric and cardboard. While both of them work just fine, one thing I really like about the cardboard is that it will just kind of break down and decompose in the garden itself. Here in our part of Texas, it's really flat. So it does have to be mounded up. So just tilling that in every year will I feel like just bring something extra to the soil. We have down the middle the walking path, and it turned out to be a lot wider than was really intended. It was just sort of accidental that it turned out that way. And next year, when we do change the configuration of the garden for spring, that walking path, while we will still have it, it'll be more asymmetrical to the right side. And all of the bedded up areas that we have now will be on the opposite side to the right of the walking path. Next to the carrots that I just finished watering is the turnips, and then there will be next to that is a row of cabbage, butternut squash. There's also cucumbers, and then further down is other squashes. With our weather being pretty warm till usually December. I mean, we've been known to have 70-degree weather in December through November, some warm Christmases even. I'm hoping to get a pretty good harvest off of those more summer type plants. But, I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't get frosty days in November, December. It's just pretty infrequent. Right now I'm watering some more broccoli. Next to the broccoli is more cabbage. Next to the cabbage is some cauliflower. And then the row next to that is butternut squash again and some more cucumber. Towards the front, you will see in that bedded up area some little green sprouts. That's radishes. Next to it on the left half of that bed is carrots. And the bedded up area directly behind it is romaine lettuce and beets. This is filmed a couple of days ago. And so we've even had growth since then, and it is a lot cooler out today. So this whole week is supposed to be cooler. It's in the 60s. So I think we'll get a lot of growth out of those cold weather plants. They just love when it's cooler out. So I think they're really going to thrive this week. With it being in October, really later part of October, and it just getting a cold snap right now, and it's only going to last a few days, I'm hoping that the plants will benefit from that as much as possible, because it's going to go back up into the 80s in just a few short days. So next spring, when we change up the garden layout, we're still going to have row areas, because it, like I said, with this part of Texas being so flat, you do have to have the mounded areas so that when it does rain, you'll have good water flow and your crops don't flood. We will still have the rows. They'll actually be a lot longer than they are now. And with the walking path being asymmetrical, that'll really allow the rows to be a lot longer without having any division. On the right side is where we're going to put the mounded up bed areas, and it just gets a lot more shade on that side of the garden. So we're going to be doing a lot of like salad greens and some strawberries and some peas and other things that I think could benefit from having at least a little bit of protection from the heat and all that. It just gets so hot and dry here in the summer. And then when it's not hot and dry, it's hot and humid. So it's like baking in an oven, and I don't want to lose crops. So I'll be really happy to have that water irrigation and the drip lines set up. I'm hoping to get that taken care of this winter. It would be huge because we do till up our garden to set the rows every year or every season. I'll have to figure out a way that we can set up the irrigation so that the irrigation going down the row can be moved easily, or at least easy enough. But I'm almost done watering. I try to just do down the center of the actual row, and in each row there's a flattened top that makes sort of like a little bed of where the water can kind of lay and soak in, and so there's not a lot of runoff, and it just kind of keeps it right on top so that the plants themselves can soak up the water. When I open it full up like that, I'm watering the bedded areas where the beets are. Right now is what I'm watering. Directly next to that is the romaine. And then, like I said, the front bed right there is the radishes that are greening up, and the carrots. And the carrots have actually really started to come up a lot since this video. A lot has really grown up since this video. So this area that I'm watering right now is the turnips. And next to that is some cabbage and the butternut squash. I am so over this hose. It kinks so bad. I'll be so grateful when we have the drip lines in, or that we can get those in and set up, just so that I don't have to deal with this hose kinking up every 5 minutes. It's a real pain. And it's also a hassle whenever it drags in the row and drags across the tops of my plants. That's really annoying. Here lately, we've been in one of our drought moments. It did rain one day, I think a week or so ago. That was a pretty good rain, and I didn't have to water that day, which was really nice. But it's been really, really dry, drier than our typical. This is our hurricane season, so we're used to it being a lot wetter than this. But it's just been really, really dry. And I've heard that a lot of other parts of the country have been like that too. And we're no different here in this part of Texas. So we haven't had that bad of weeds come up in the garden this season so far. So I'm just kind of like picking them as I see them pop up. They're still pretty small. I mean, there's a few areas that it's weeded up, especially in the walking path. But I try to keep it from encroaching on the plants too much. And whenever all the cardboard is laid, we're just trying to gather it as we go. I've actually added a lot since this video, even though it's just a few days ago. I've actually added a lot more cardboard than is in here now. But with it not raining as much, there's really not that bad of weeds here. I think this is the last of the garden that I have to water, and I'm going through. I've found some weeds and some little sprouts, and I'm kind of checking that out. That's why I'm stopping and taking a closer look. My son, who's 3, took a handful of seeds and planted them in a row that already had plants in it. And I'm discovering here that that is where they are popping up. I'm also finding out here that there was a double layer of squash plants planted. And I think that is also thanks to him. I love whenever he helps me in the garden. I think it's a great thing for him to learn. For all of my kids, I really appreciate whenever they take an interest. But with the squash plants being double planted, there's some that I'm going to have to thin out and remove or relocate. And I am just kind of taking some time to figure that out here and pull out some weeds and figure out what the little buds are that are popping up that he planted, because I really can't tell. They're starting to get a little bigger now, and I think they are radishes. Are not radishes, turnips, because that's what they look like the most similarly. But there's a few of them that are popping up that look like cabbages too. So he may have gotten a hold of more than just one type of seed. So this is the part of the walking path that was never intended to be walking path. This area was supposed to be rows. It was actually, the rows were supposed to go all the way to that centerpiece of landscape fabric that's kind of going down the middle. But it just kind of worked out this way instead, and that's fine. It's all a learning moment. This is actually the first year we've ever laid out the garden like this. Normally it's just rows all the way across. And then we do just one type of crop down each row, or sometimes we might skip a row. We usually skip a row when we're doing squash, just because they really just kind of balloon out everywhere. We sometimes will skip a row with tomatoes as well for the same reason. But typically each row has its own crop, kind of like just like a market garden kind of, except where they just continually rotate new things in. We do a season and then retail. I think I'm all done, and I'm just doing the last little corner with this stupid hose, and then I think I'm done, which is why you don't see me. I'm finishing out that corner down there where the zucchini is, off camera. And then I'll be done. It takes about, I don't know, if I do it without stopping to pull weeds or inspect things, it really only takes about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. But as the garden gets bigger and is more demanding with keeping off pests. Hi, baby. I've got baby Jacob here with me, and he's homesick. Well, he's always home. He's 10 months, and he's got a little cold, so he's hanging out with Mama, and he's really vocal today. Hi, baby. Okay, so now I'm pretty sure I'm finished watering everything, and I'm just pulling weeds and inspecting areas of the garden, trying to go through all of those little seedlings that my son planted and figure out what is actually a seedling of a plant and what is a seedling of a weed. And they're all mixed in, but it's just right on the very top of the row where we plant everything. And like I said, for all the tops of the row, we flatten the very top out like a little channel, so that when we do water, the water goes in that channel and stays in the channel, so that the plants have the opportunity to soak up as much water as it can before there's any runoff. And what do I do? Oh, I'm just getting my shoes. A lot of the time, I do spend all of my time completely barefoot in the garden. I just really prefer to be barefoot in the garden, because even with the cardboard and the landscape fabric, my shoes get so dirty. And these are just garden shoes anyway, and I just spray them off and they're easy. But it's still a hassle, and I hate having clumpy, clayey mud, dirt all stuck to the bottom of my shoes as I walk around. So I usually just take them off and go barefoot. I feel like bare feet get just as dirty as shoes do, but they're so much easier to hose off. And it's also really relaxing just being connected to the earth that way, and just have your feet in the dirt and your hands in the dirt. It's just really therapeutic for me. I really probably should have worn a hat or some sunglasses or something, with how sunny it was, and probably would have been a lot more comfortable for me, but I didn't, and I'm just managing like I always do. Washing my hands off. There, you can't see it, but I'm watering right now. There's 2 little beds of herbs. We have basil and dill, and what else? Chives and cilantro planted in some raised bed areas. We also have some not chives, shallots planted in a little raised bed area, and a couple of jalapeno peppers over back in that area too that you can't see. And that's just what I'm watering now. But after that, I'm going to be done, and I'm super pumped. I think the only thing that I did was add a few things to the compost, and I pretty much called it a day in the garden. I find myself going out to the garden a couple of times a day just to see what's sprouting up or how things are doing. And it's just relaxing to be out there, even whenever everything is so small. And even before things started sprouting, where it was just mounds of dirt, and I just felt like I was growing dirt, like I was farming dirt. It was still really relaxing to go out and seeing things pop up through the ground whenever they would start to seed. And the little baby shoots were coming up. It was just so fun to see that. Thanks so much for watching. Come back next time. Subscribe to see more things happening on the homestead.